I'm Essence Harden, and I am a curator at the California African American Museum located in Exposition Park. And this year, I am curating Focus for Frieze Los Angeles. The theme for Focus this year is ecologies. I was really interested in the relationship between material, between artists, this kind of psychology and theorization of how art comes to happen and the ways in which artists produce. And so ecologies became the way outside of biology that I understood that practice. I'm going to take you to a few cultural spots that create a really thriving ecosystem for art making in Los Angeles. We're here today at Parker Gallery in Los Feliz, Los Angeles. It's actually part of Sam Parker, the gallerist's house. So half of it's dedicated to the gallery, the other half is his home. There's a long history in Los Angeles of alternative spaces like churches and garages and warehouses, and now Sam Parker finds himself in that same legacy. With a gallery that's in a residential space, there's lots of alternative ways of thinking around hanging and layout for an exhibition, and we're gonna take a look inside.
We established the galleries in 2017, and really the idea behind that was creating an environment that is familiar and intimate. We have a focus on underappreciated artists from the Bay Area who are working in the 1960s and 70s.
Love it.
And really establishing a dialogue to contemporary practices with younger emerging artists.
Who are also from the Bay Area generally?
No, not necessarily, from all over.
Cool. So it's like bringing the Bay Area back into the world and not just kind of isolated in its silo.
Taking it out of that regional context, exactly.
Yeah, I love that. Can you walk me through your show?
Sure. Here we have a two-person exhibition with all new work by Gladys Nilsson, who was born in 1940 in Chicago, part of a very influential group of artists that were known as the Harry Who that came out of the Art Institute of Chicago in the early 1960s. And we are contextualizing her work with new works by Hen Samir, who was born in 1986 and from a very different background. Hen grew up in Egypt. It's a very indicative show of our program, which is often establishing a very intergenerational dialogue between two artists who do not necessarily have direct dialogue already.
I mean, I think just offhand, I love all the use of color from both of these artists and sort of the play and pleasure that's happening with the materials themselves. We're here at Plume Coffee in Filipinotown in Los Angeles. So Maurice, you are a florist, and then you opened a cafe, and here we are at Plume Coffee, and I'm hoping you can take us through that kind of process of going from being a florist to opening a coffee shop and what you're offering here in the space.
Yeah, we've been open now 5 years, which is insane. And I found that flowers was a very esoteric, expensive, hard to approach practice.
Yeah.
And I wanted to find a way to make it more accessible to more people at a price point that made sense, and have a space where people still want to leave their house and go to, as opposed to like ordering it online. We were finding that coffee shops are always a white box dominated by white men, and it's literally a Black thing.
Yeah.
It originates in Africa, Ethiopia specifically.
What am I drinking? It's delicious, I love it.
It's our Sweetie Pie Latte, which is our answer to the pumpkin spice latte, done black. It's a twist on the sweet potato pie. So it has a sweet potato puree, and then it is cinnamon, espresso, milk.
Perfect.
Voila.
So we're here at the Box in the Arts District in downtown Los Angeles, and I would love to just know more history about when the space opened and your program overall.
We opened the space in 2007 in Chinatown and then came to the Arts District in 2012. When I first opened, I actually opened it with my dad, Paul McCarthy, and we were really trying to focus on doing exhibitions with artists who didn't have much representation, some older artists, some estates, some younger artists who were only getting shown in Europe, things like that. A lot of conceptual work, a lot of very hardcore feminist work like Judith Bernstein. We have an exhibition of the work of Sarah Conaway. She's LA-based, has primarily been known as a photographer. So this is our third show with her, and she wanted to start exploring film. So these are all actually 8mm film.
They're very ethereal and they feel like objects, even though they're still...
Yeah, the show is called Sacred Castle, so it's kind of a reference to a book that's about like enlightenment. And I think as we've started to look around, and lots of my fellow gallerists in LA are growing and going to New York or going to Europe, and I'm really kind of in this space where I'm like, I want to develop this area, I want to have a bookstore, I want to have talks, I want to do, I'm more interested in creating strong community in LA.
I moved here like 9 years ago to do my dissertation research. And it was about like this art thing movement that happened here in the late 1970s called Studio Z. And it was in Leimert Park. And it's like David Hammons and Sangan Ngudi and Marion Hassinger. And so I moved and I thought that's what I was going to do. And then immediately got sort of swept up in the actual contemporary art scene that was happening. I was writing reviews and stuff. And those reviews led me to do, exhibitions and to be a curator. And so my relationship to this place is very much like the home of my own like second coming. Like my adult self belongs to this place. How I think about art and how I think about collaboration in the community here is very foundational to who I am and who I hope to become. So LA is like a beacon for me, and it's been like such a generative and kind and like compassionate place for me. I really love LA, I really fuck with it. We're here at Vielmetter in downtown, and I'm here with Kevin Scholl, who is a co-partner and director of the Los Angeles Gallery. Your exhibition right now, it's a solo with Todd Gray. Can you speak more to the particulars of what this exhibition is about and Todd's work?
This exhibition with Todd is a focus on his early body of work, but also includes newer pieces from his Rome Prize residency, where images of the Catholic churches, of the Medici residency were added into portraits of himself, kind of interposing and showing how the Catholic Church really upheld slavery and benefited from it both financially but also in the power struggle.
And I'm really interested in how Vielmetter sees itself and its program here in LA.
So Suzanne Vielmetter started her program in 2000. The focus initially was on LA artists. She predominantly worked with artists who came out of the CalArts program. Some of her earliest artists were Edgar Arsenault, Andrea Bowers, Charles Gaines, Rodney McMillan. So really had an immediate access to what was going on conceptually within California. And since then, she expanded her gallery space within Culver City, and then in 2019, we expanded to downtown Los Angeles. Two of the first galleries to move into this area were Night Gallery and Francois Gabali, just down the street. And so when we started looking, we loved knowing that they were close by, that we're creating kind of closer knit community of galleries that people could ideally park in one spot and walk to multiple locations.
We're here today at Reparations Club, which is a bookstore in South LA and West Adams. And we're here with Jazzi McGilbert, who is the owner and founder of the store. And I wanted to ask you about sort of why you wanted a bookstore to be in West Adams and the overall kind of program that you run here.
I really didn't know necessarily when I opened it that it would be a bookstore, but I knew I wanted a space that centered and reflected myself and people like me.
There's this idea of like Rep Club being a call and response a little bit, right? That the space exists and then you respond to the needs of the community. How do you see the needs of the community changing or growing, or what has Rep Club done in terms of programming?
I like that way of putting it, is call and response. It's transforms. We've got these four walls, and so we can do anything within this space. And books are a very natural entryway to a lot of conversations too. So that's been karaoke nights, it's been poetry readings, open mic nights, first-time home buyers seminars, sign making, the list goes on and on and on.
You're going to be at Frieze again this year, and can you talk specifically about why it's important to have Rep Club represented at Frieze?
Yeah. It's an honor to be at something so big, and so there's so much energy in the space, and we just want to bring Black art and Black artists just into the spotlight in that space. And the people are really nice, and we get to meet so many amazing artists and curators and just art lovers.
It's been a really fascinating and interesting day filled with artists and galleries in different neighborhoods and just the small areas of LA that make it a really vibrant, beautiful art city and ecosystem. Thanks for joining us today.